Hello, welcome to chrisgarner.org. Today I'm talking a little bit about what we're actually doing, and also I want to talk about growth marketing, what it is, what really it isn't, how to tap into this process and this mindset, and also how to debunk some of the myths that are in the marketplace with what growth hacking can or cannot do for your business. So this is a little bit about chrisgarner.org. Welcome to chrisgarner.org. So this is some of the companies I've been lucky enough to work with. And if you check out my website, there's a great deal of premium tier 1 brands that I've had experience of building performance marketing campaigns for. And that was Amazon in early 2000s, Apple when they launched their iPhone and iTunes, AliExpress when they broke into the Australian marketplace, The Iconic when they launched, and David Jones when they launched in performance marketing. So out of the top 100 global brands, I've been lucky enough to work with at least 50% of them. And that's a little bit what I've learned. And also, we're going to talk about this growth marketing mindset, something that you can really tap into as a business and accelerate the number of customers that you can acquire for relatively low cost. I've also worked with some of these tier 1 agencies, and really what I've learned with these premium agencies is that the way that they spend media dollars is really interesting. And certainly, if you are a tier 1 brand, you might have hundreds of millions of dollars to spend on marketing, but getting the most bang for the buck should surely be your top priority, and also making meaningful value add products for your customers. That is your focus. So the last two couple of companies I've worked for have been grown at such a rate that they've won the Deloitte Tech Fast 50. That's Cashrewards, and CodeCamp has recently been crowned as the rising star. And these two companies were the last two companies I'm working for. And at Cashrewards in the final year, we grew 400% year on year. And I'll talk about how we did that. So the accolades that I've achieved at these companies have really stood them apart from the crowd. So they've been recognized in the Telstra Business Awards or at StartCon, or by Westpac Business of Tomorrow. And that's really what this growth mindset can do for you as a business. It can put you on the right platform to create better products and services for your customers. So look, let's get into it. What is a growth team? Now, every business I know has these departments within it. Now, customer support, product and marketing, they all exist. Usually they exist in little fiefdoms. And ideally, the growth team takes exceptional people from within these teams, brings them together who've got shared skills, and tries to understand and debunk the funnel for your customer acquisition. So how your customers go through the life cycle of your products. This team is to really try and understand the acquisition of customers and how to turn them into repeat customers, and how those customers become advocates for you and therefore are your best advertisers of your company. And what your North Star metric really is as a business is fundamental to making this growth team all laser focused on what success looks like. So growth hacking or growth marketing, and I'm a big proponent of Sean Ellis's school. Sean Ellis is someone who has grown Dropbox over the years. Now, there are certain amount of people in the marketplace who like to think that growth hacking or growth marketing doesn't exist or is just a trendy buzzword, but it isn't. I've been in this business for 20 years, and these skills here creative marketing, software engineering, automation, and data analytics very rarely lie within the same person. You might get someone who's very good at creative marketing, building ads, design, maybe copywriting. Do they really understand data and analytics? Can they implement through Google Tag Manager? Do they understand the duplication rules and how different technologies integrate? And then with respect to automation and CRM, how is that creating different webhooks on the fly to segment users, for example? These skills, whilst it's all well and good for me to say them out loud, to actually find them in one person is a rarity. You're looking for a needle in a haystack. It's not even 1% of marketers have these skills. And a lot of CMOs don't, to be honest. It's easy even to be strong in one, more difficult to be strong in two. It's very complicated to be strong in all three. Literally, to find a creative copywriter who is a software engineer and can do automation, good luck if you're hiring that person. And if you've got that person, cling on to them tight. When I'm talking about this, how many software engineers out there or analytics data scientists really know about the psychology of persuasion and influence by Robert B. Cialdini? All of these in one person is a rarity. And this book was written in the 80s. Just ask your marketers and your development team whether they understand these 6 influence of factors in users, in compliance, in saying yes. I'm not going to go into it, but in this one, but certainly come back to it later, as it's very important from a marketing perspective. All of the marketing should be playing into these areas of scarcity, the fear of missing out, 5 products left on sale today, or consistency in your social media, in posting on a regular time, reciprocity. So, for example, when a brand does something for you, gives you a free sample or a free trial, then you're likely to do something back. And then, authority. So are you seen as a authoritative figure in your industry? Are you extolling the benefits of your products in an authoritative way for people to trust that opinion? And then consensus or social proof. All these influence is very correlated with trust, and something that advertisers often fail to get. So again, would a marketer who's awesome in copywriting be able to build a growth marketing MarTech stack like this, for example, that looks at 5 layers of deep of data and integrates that seamlessly? This is just one example of a MarTech stack that would be in place from a growth marketing team. And then I'll show you a little bit about how to build one of these, what tools to use, which tools to potentially look at as well. That's essentially the 2 dichotomies of a growth marketer, to really understand the technical integrations required here, plus the behavioral science of users and persuasion from copy and creative marketing content perspective. So I'm going to take this a little bit back. We've talked about some of the agencies and large marketing brands, and we talk a lot about Agile in software development, but I want to talk about Agile Mar Tech, which is marketing technology. Previously, if you go to your agency, they'll look at all these different silos, and these silos will tell you that you're in the wrong building, because these silos don't exist. Campaign planning like this in isolation is dead. And I would strongly suggest you build a growth team internally that can articulate and implement strong marketing campaigns all the time. Outsourcing to agencies part of your work, but your creative thinking and your strategy is very risky, because your direction overall, your 2 North Star metric, would be really floppy and subject to change, and it really can't do that if you want to increase exponentially. So this is an Agile Growth MarTech team, and these are the core skills that you required within it in order for it to grow and be able to implement the right kind of testing strategy. So we use Kanban typically to do doing and done, and I've written about that in Getting Shit Done. Use daily stand-ups, what we did yesterday, the 3 things that we did, what we're doing today, the 3 key aspects of those things, and what is preventing us from achieving those. The growth marketer or the growth team lead, has to manage this process. Kanban to do doing done, it has to coordinate with these excellent resources, team leaders, the CEO or the COO, the CTO. They're people who are very time poor. Coordinating with these people is quite difficult to get their attention. But to be honest, if your business doesn't have a growth mindset in its DNA, then it's not going to succeed. Anything that isn't growing is going backwards. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. What isn't growing is dying. So these core proponents need to be ingratiated into this process and empowered to make decisions. And that requires a buy-in from the COO and the CTO in order to get around this process. So let's just look at it. We start with sprint planning, sprint prioritization, daily stand-ups, sprint testing, launch, and retrospectives. This is very agile in its methodology. But before we can even go about building a growth team, and a lot of companies fail to do this, and it's such a premium factor to do prior to doing any growth marketing, is a product market fit survey. And it runs a little bit like this. How would you feel if you could no longer use your product? So if it was Apple iPhone, how would you feel if you could no longer use your Apple iPhone? And the answers are you very disappointed, somewhat disappointed, not very disappointed, I don't use my Apple iPhone? And if you survey a statistical relevant number of people, a significant number, and you can find out what that number needs to be, if you get greater than 40% of those users saying that they would be very disappointed if they could no longer use their Apple iPhone, then you know you have product market fit. If you get less than 40%, you don't. And for all the growth in the world, if you don't have product market fit and you haven't established that, then your business is going to fail. You really need to ask this question up front. And also, the people that would be very disappointed, you need to utilize their knowledge, because these are your advocates, in what features they would like to see being built. You should be designing the products for the people that would be very disappointed that they can no longer use your products. They are your core audience. Let's assume, and remember, never assume, let's pretend that you do have product market fit and that you need to build a growth team. You've got those must-have users. We can interview them. You can ask them questions. What are the differences between these people and the people that don't care? Because this can affect your whole marketing strategy and your whole product feature roadmap. So we've established we've got product market fit. Now we need to build the growth team and get people around these shared measurable targets. I would suggest that delivering a true North Star metric is a fundamentally important thing, and then building dashboards that can measure those performance indicators over time in a very visual way are the very foundations of growth. So, North Star metrics are not easy to find. Now, done it at Cashrewards, done it at Code Camp, you can do it at your business. You can ask even Sean Ellis, what he thinks to your North Star metrics via his website, growthhacking.com. It could be the number of active users, the number of active users daily, as in Snapchat, or it could be number of third-party integrations, or it could be the revenue per active user per day, or it could be the revenue per third-party integration. Who knows what it is for your business, but that's for the growth team lead, the COO, to discover this. You know, as a growth team lead, if you ask your COO and CTO to describe their North Star metric, if they can't in isolation, if they can't agree in isolation, that's also problematic. So, North Star metrics exist in businesses today. In eBay, they have several. One of them is gross merchandise value. Another is incrementality. Another might be number of sellers times number of listings times number of buyers active times number of sales times profit. With Uber, it's a lot simpler. It's a two-sided marketplace with drivers and riders. So ultimately, the key metric is rides per week per geo location. With Airbnb, again, a two-sided marketplace with hosts and guests. Now, nights stayed per week would be the obvious North Star metric. And I can talk a little bit later about Cashrewards and what CodeCamp's North Star metrics are. The growth team needs to have a culture of experimentation in its DNA. It always needs to be testing. There is no subjectivity in growth. We remove subjectivity by using a testing and an A/B testing approach wherever possible. And what we do is we use this analogy from Battleships, which is a game, probably showing my age now, from the early 80s, that tests to discover pings. When we have a ping, a positive hit, we then focus in on that hit to get incremental improvement over time, and therefore optimize the hell out of positive pings. And then we need to create a culture of testing where test velocity is also measured. So this is from Sean Ellis and from Cashrewards about the testing speed that can produce the most optimal results. At Twitter, when they increased testing 20 times in early 2011, they saw growth rate increase fundamentally, significantly. At growthhackers.com, when they implemented a 10 times testing priority approach, they saw growth in 2015 exponentially increase. And at Cashrewards, when we implemented multiple tests per week, up to 5, and implemented some of the growth marketing ideas and hypothesis, we saw accelerated growth at the back end of 2016, typically through the browser extension. So Agile practice delivers growth, and it must be in-house. Initially, we make sure that we have data analysts on board, and we're analyzing all the data that we have. We're unifying data as well. We're agreeing on data standards and taxonomy, and we are retrospectively going back as far as we can with a solid data set. We're then asking the team to put unbridled ideas together. We don't ever knock back ideas. All ideas with decent hypothesis and that are ICE scored, which we'll go into later, are recorded. And the team then prioritizes ideas and runs a sprint of 3 tests per week. And then we run those experiments consistently. These growth teams are vitally important for people's careers as well, because in terms of skill set, we are imploring collaboration across multiple skills. So individuals are therefore empowered to do creative problem solving, and communication is of such seamless because of stand-up that dialogue improves across the whole business quite significantly. So how do you go about looking at this acquisition, activation, retention funnel? Well, in Cashrewards, we initially started with what was our revenue, our true North Star metric, which is revenue. Cashrewards is a very cash business. So revenue on the right side. Then what did we do for acquisition? Well, out of all of our tests, we found that the aha moment came when a user saw influence of marketing on TV, segments from Today Show, etc., with Facebook ads. So repurposing those video content for Facebook. Then when they signed up from an acquisition perspective, if they made a purchase on the same day, or in fact made 2 purchases, they became sticky. So we had to move them through the funnel fast enough to get them to 2 purchases. Then in order to retain them, the cheapest way to retain them was to get them to use the toolbar, the cashback extension from the Chrome store, because it remarkets in the Google search engine result pages for free, which is so much cheaper than remarketing in Facebook, for example. Then on the referral side, we used the refer a friend, where we delivered 20% of new signups from this mechanism. This took 12 months to build. At Twitter, they look at, to acquire people, they look at invites and shares. Then to activate people, if you do their activation now, you have a learn flow in which you're trying to follow at least 5 people in a very short amount of time, maybe first 15 minutes. Because if the stream of content on your Twitter feed is bereft of depth, then you're not going to be sticky. So then in order to retain, they use an invite system because they feel that the more invites they can get from a user, the more the network effect takes in to account and glues the whole thing together. And their North Star metric is more users with more followers, so it's daily active users. So what is yours? Dashboards. Dashboards are crucial. Businesses that can't report on unified data from the caretaker to the CEO to the board are really missing an opportunity to get everyone around growth. So dashboards are a fundamental part of a growth team. This is a dashboard draft for CodeCamp. And what we've done is we've broken the North Star metric, which is, in this instance, sales and revenue, into the 5 key influencing parts that growth can deliver. So growth can really deliver an increase in new users to the website. Growth can influence the landing page click-through rate to start the basket. Growth can also increase the on-site conversion from landing page to sale. Growth can also influence the number of referrals per sale. Growth can also influence the number of Net Promoter Score. So Net Promoter Score is the likelihood that you're going to go viral. The bigger this number, the closer to 100, the much higher likelihood you're going to go viral is. And growth can also influence the number of email subscriptions. And if we look at it by channel, this can be broken down. Direct, TV, search, email, social, referral, you name it. So this is a beta growth dashboard. And this is what it looks like when it's been built and live. And obviously, this is not real data, but it's showing you how growth can influence these core factors. And we worked as a team at CodeCamp to deliver this. We also brainstormed all the types of things that we could pull, the levers that we could pull, the pull marketing methodologies. And we can go into this, but I suggest that you do this, get this on the table, because you need to learn where your strengths are as a team in these areas, all of them. I'm not going to go into them now, and you can pause the video and look at these later. You need to also understand all of these different areas from a MarTech technology. You need to understand how you're going to market to customers. Yeah, you know, how you're going to keep them. Is it MailChimp? Is it Drip? Is it some other Salesforce? You're going to have to work out what are your channels to message. How are you going to message? Where's your content being stored and optimized so that when users interact with your content? And then what your analytics suite looks like, how that might be delivered. And, you know, this is obviously budget dependent, and there's a lot of trial and error goes into this. And then how you're going to collaborate across in order to deliver marketing that cuts through all these different areas. As a team, you need to make certain commitments together. So we make these commitments to execute 3 tests per week. We only agree to execute perfectly tests. So that means with analytics, with sign-off, with creative. We can do AdWords, ad copy tests, 5 per week. Facebook ad copy refreshed, 5 per week. 1 growth squad meeting a week. And daily stand-ups. So we have this process down. What does it look like? Well, I'm not going to go into great detail here, but we use a tool that was built by Sean Ellis called Growth Hackers, and it can help you collaborate growth. We build a backlog of ideas in here. Each idea includes a hypothesis, a description, and it's scored by the user on impact out of 10, on the confidence levels of that impact, and the ease to implement. And again, I'll go on how we prioritize. And usually then it's prioritized against the 5 key areas of acquisition, activation, referral, retention, and revenue. And then ICE scores are usually put on a leaderboard and voted and implemented dependent on the team and the influence of the growth squad leader. Tests are selected and assigned project managers, and the project managers are the areas with the most expertise to coordinate that. They report to the head of growth, and they report daily in stand-up on their execution and the development of those growth ideas to live. And then every test that is performed after it is concluded, there's an understanding of whether it worked or not, and that is recorded against it, and then further testing and sharing is done on the back of it. So what does it look like in terms of weekly meetings? It's once a week for sprint planning with core team, and then uncore team gets together daily for 15 minutes. Daily stand-up. Core team needs to be CEO, Vice President of Product, CTO. The agenda in the sprint meeting looks very much like this. It's a 1-hour meeting, it's time boxed. There's a review of the focus of key areas, whether you're focusing on activation or retention. There's a review of the last week's testing. The data, the analytics comes next. And then tests are selected for this week's sprint and the backlog. So just very simple how growth can actually accelerate businesses. One simple test, like moving the email sign-up capture form to the top right-hand side of the page, can increase email sign-ups by 700%. Now, not all tests have silver bullets, but very simple tests can have significant results. You know, once that has been done, you can double down on winning tests. So whilst you might have an email now, you need to activate an account. So getting them quickly into step 2, creating free accounts, can boost activation. And if you think about it, Dropbox, so this is Sean Ellis's example, is a very good example of the number of different levers it's pulling that are playing to Robert Cialdini's the psychology of persuasion and influence, those key elements. And look, I think I'll leave it there for today. It's been really good start. I hope you can take some of this out and ask questions, and I'll drill down to some of the tests that are done that have helped accelerate these businesses to be winners of the Deloitte Tech Fast 50.